guys. Happy Tuesday afternoon. This is Anything But Average, Achieving Success in Life. I'm Trisha Turner, and I got Brian Murphy with me today. Welcome, Brian.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for having me, Trisha.
Heck yeah. So, you guys, if y'all don't know what this is about, this is, I believe everybody has a success story. I believe everybody has a level of success that they're all capable of getting to. And this is to bring positivity to the world, to kind of help you guys grow your business, get some pro tips, some strategies, and some secrets, not always pertaining to real estate, but most of the time. So, Brian, if we could kind of give a little bit of backstory where you are in the world, what you do for a living, and how long you've been doing it.
All right. So I am the director of operations for those that don't know, Mary was on here. Hell, not too long ago. She was on your show, right? And
Yep.
so she's kind of the visionary, the sales leader. She was the founder of the team. I joined her. I think now it's coming up on 2 years that I left my career. I started my career in the insurance world. I have my master's degree in finance and accounting, and I was working in the insurance industry. I opened my own independent insurance brokerage, built that up, sold that business, went back into corporate insurance for a while. And, at that time, Mary was really growing her own team. She started on teams, but then eventually she grew and kept growing and wanted to be on her own. And we knew it was only a matter of time until I was going to be in business with her. It was just waiting for the right time. And apparently the right time was while we were sitting on a beach in Jamaica.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it was wild. We were just sitting there. We're in Jamaica, and we're sitting on the beach one day, and she was just like, why don't you just finally just come join me? She's like, why don't you leave your career? I was like, okay, done. And
that was easy.
I get in the following Monday. It was like 9:00 in the morning. She's already texting me. She's like, did you tell him yet? I was like, well, at least let me talk about my vacation first. Then I'll drop that bomb. But no, so that's ended up how we joined. When I first came over, we knew it was always going to be in the operations role. But when I first came over, just out of necessity, what a lot of kind of the integrators do is they fill in where they're needed. And at the time, she had her buyer's agent, Jen, who's now our executive assistant. Mary went through a couple different assistants. And Jen, she got to a point where she's like, I want to do that. I want to be on the admin side. I don't want to do sales. So she moved into the admin role, and now there's no buyer's agent. So all this business was just getting missed.
Yeah.
So I was like, I might as well get licensed. So at least pick up some of that business. So that's what I did at first. Got my license. I spent most of 2020, I got licensed January of 2020, and then spent a good portion of that year actually selling homes until the first opportunity I had to get out, I was out. And then went to where I'm happy, which is in front of my computers doing operations stuff.
And you guys are in Jersey, right?
Yes.
Okay, so for you guys that aren't aware, if you've never read the book Traction or Rocket Fuel, you should, especially if you're in the real estate industry. Yeah. There's usually two roles that people play in the real estate team and company. One is the visionary. That's someone who can see things and is a builder and just seeks to do more, always in build mode, always wanting to do more, be more, create something, constantly in movement. But a visionary usually can't make all those things happen. Not by themselves anyhow. An integrator is the one that they like molded together, where it's like the integrator can hear all the things that the visionary talks about and then can make it happen. So Brian is the integrator. And I would challenge you guys to all read that book, because like what he does is magical, because Mary's mind works very fast and she's always thinking, what about this? What about this? I'm the same way. And so a lot of times our ideas maybe aren't always the greatest. And it's helpful to have someone there that's like, hey, hold on a second. We might
kind of rein it back in.
Yeah, you kind of went way off on a limb, And when you're growing a real estate business, so before you started with Mary, kind of walk through y'all's company. So where were y'all before? How long have y'all been in real estate, period?
So Mary, she started 7 years ago.
Okay.
And so when she started, that point it's kind of funny how a lot of it transpired actually. So she was a teacher, and she was a preschool teacher making no money, and she was working
Right.
in Philadelphia. So she had to, pay the bridge toll every day, all the gas getting into it. So after we had our second daughter, she went back to school for about a month, and she's like, this doesn't make sense. We have two kids in daycare. I'm losing money. So she's like, I'm not going to do it. So she quit. And, so at that time I had a high paying job in corporate insurance. And so we're like, all right, no problem. So she was a stay at home mom for about 2 weeks and realized this is not for me either. I have to work. So I'm going to get into sales. So I'm going to do real estate. So she went to real estate school, got her license. Actually, while she was in school, my company went through massive layoffs and I got laid off. So now we didn't have my income anymore. So I told Mary, I'm like, all right, well, instead of selling a couple houses on the side, I'll give you time. I'll take some time. You go full force and get after it. And she did. So she went right into real estate and just crushed it and sold 37 homes in her first year. So she initially joined a team. And at that point, the same time, that's when I opened my insurance agency. So I was done with the corporate insurance world. I opened my own brokerage. So we both went from having two corporate jobs, her being a school teacher, me in insurance, to now both being business owners. It was mayhem. You want to talk about a roller coaster like this?
For
So
sure.
I ended up having, so I built my agency up pretty successfully real quick. So literally after about 2 years, I was able to sell my insurance agency. I had
Nice.
a larger independent brokerage in the area come over and offer a buyout. I couldn't turn it down. And at the same time, one of my contacts from the corporate world approached me with a position. So I was like, all right, I'm selling this agency. I have this position. So at least we have, that little cushion.
Yeah.
So Mary, she was on the team. She had left to go to another team to become an expansion director for a team. It wasn't the right fit for her. So after that team is when she decided to build it on her own.
Okay.
So when she went off to build it on her own, I was working the corporate world, but as she continued to build, that's when it got to a point where she was selling 70 plus homes, on a year and, basically on her own. So she was successful enough at that point where we kind of got rid of a lot of the big balls. You still have the roller coaster, the seasonality, but we got rid of those months where you have nothing. So we're like, all right, we can do it. So that's when I left my job and we started building our own. So that's kind of how I got into it. And then we joined EXP February of 2020.
Okay.
So right after I got licensed, we moved our business to EXP, and much of that was kind of the transition. COVID hit right. We moved over, and we just started building our business. I had to jump into sales. So the time I was in sales, I was focused on that. But 2021 was when we were like, we are going to just hammer this down. The end of 2020 into 2021 was when we're like, I need to focus on the operations of this business if we want to scale it. So we'd done similar, 19 and 20 were similar volume wise. We sold about, 70 houses for 17, 18 million.
Yep.
But then last year, when we finally started getting the operations in place, the systems in place, the processes, we were able to start scaling the business. And then 2021, we sold 150 houses for 40 million. So we're finally able to kind of get over that hump.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was, because now we're organized. We had the systems in place, we had the processes. So now we're able to add people without it being more of a burden. That's what a big mistake a lot of agents make is they want to build a team before they have systems and processes in place. And then those agents are now more of a burden because now you don't have processes to facilitate a team member. So what's that team member do when they have questions? They go to you as the team leader. Yeah. So now not only are you still selling houses, now you have agents on your team that are all coming to you all day long with a million questions.
Oh yeah.
So now finally when we're able to get over that hump, we're able to really scale. And now this year, we're on pace to hit 100 million in volume this year, going for 40 million last year. So yeah, that's kind of the path we took and the trajectory we're on. And it's fun.
So what do you think one of the first things you put into place was when you came in and were like, look, we got to fix this stuff? What do you think was one of the first things that helped you get there?
First thing we did, the first was a CRM system.
Yep.
So Mary had a CRM system when she was on her own, but it was a big, giant, disorganized mess. Because again, most sales agents, most salespeople, they do not want to live inside of a CRM system.
Yeah.
They want to be out. They want to be talking to clients, converting leads, getting listings, getting buyers under. They don't want to sit there and organize a CRM.
No.
But the CRM system is crucial to your business. As long as you have it organized. So that's what I did initially. So even when I came over and initially started in sales, I focused on trying to build that CRM system and organizing it. So that way we would have everyone in the proper pipelines, proper stages, getting the proper follow-up campaigns, which immediately helps the business because now you don't have people just falling through the cracks. Because we were able to find, just by organizing the CRM system, we're able to find a dozen more deals from people we never would have had a deal from had we not organized the CRM system.
Yeah. So when you did that, of course, that takes time to go through and clean all that up. Then were you guys buying leads? How did walk us through kind of what was your next steps you had to do to build this whole system out?
Yeah. So I mean, we've always had a lot of incoming. I mean, we've used realtor.com for a long time for leads. Now, but then it's funny because I did kind of build that. We were using Chime at the time. And once we started building our team, we realized that there was just, as we have more users, we started finding more glitches with Chime. So we ended up switching. We're on Follow Up Boss now. So once I had Chime organized and functioning properly, we left. So now I had to organize a new CRM system. But no, so now we have, in terms of leads, we use realtor.com, we use Zillow, we have Ylopo, we do a lot of Google stuff.
Okay. What do you think has been one of your biggest factors in the success that you guys have in doubling like that, besides, getting your CRM and getting your leads? What do you think is your other factor? Because you're watching all this stuff.
A couple of things. One is, again, I have a master's degree in accounting and finance. So numbers are big for me. So I run reports every day to see where we are. So I'll look at the prior day's expenses. Like I can tell you on any given day what our expenses are to the penny that month. So I track all. So that's huge because that's one thing that Mary, before I came over, something that's really easy to do as a real estate team. When you're building a team, when you have those great months, you don't think that there could potentially be down months coming. So you look at those great months and you're like, oh, we could double our realtor.com spend, or we could double our marketing spend because that's that month. But now all of a sudden, if, that June, July, those months, if all of a sudden they dip down in November, you still got to pay those expenses. So a lot of agents tend to bite off a lot more than they could chew because they're not organized with the finances. So that's a key component, is really having that dialed in to know what your profitability is. And then the overall organization. Now I feel like we're at a point where our team is pretty streamlined, everything from the onboarding process all the way through to the training process to, how they transfer, buyers over to the transaction team when someone goes under contract, how they send transfer listings over to our listing manager for them to get everything in the MLS. Everything, there's systems and processes for everything, and everything's documented, which is key. And that's another thing that I spent a lot of my time on is documenting all the processes.
Yeah. So did you guys build out a whole training system and now you're just kind of like tweaking it, or people can just come straight in and they're into your training?
Yeah. So we've built out a lot. Our onboarding is one of my key areas of focus right now. Because we really just started ramping up. Last year, when we ended 2021, we had, I think, 5 agents on our team. As of today, I just had an onboarding day this morning with a couple more. We're up to 17 agents on our team now.
Nice.
So the onboarding is a big focus. As we onboard more, we need to make it less one-on-one and more streamlined systems where they could go and do a lot of it on their own and then come to us for the key components. So today, for example, it was the onboarding day for these 2 new agents where it was all about Follow Up Boss. So I had them in the office earlier, and we just do a deep dive into Follow Up Boss. But prior to that, they were already in our Kajabi training site. They were already watching the videos on Follow Up Boss. They already knew what Follow Up Boss was. They were logged into it already. So they had the kind of basics. And then now I could just sit there and kind of give them the deep dive, and then they're ready to run. So we have onboarding checklists that they follow. So if they're ever at home, they don't know what they should be doing one day, they can look at their checklist and be like, all right,
Yeah.
what's needs to be done.
Critical.
And then we have the Kajabi page that has a lot of our training videos, all the how-tos, all that kind of stuff.
On your onboarding, what's a typical onboarding cycle for someone? Is it 30 days? Is it 3 weeks?
Depends on the person, their experience level.
Okay.
If like the two that we just brought on today, they're experienced agents. They'll rip through it. They have a 7-day onboarding process.
Nice.
That's about it. And it's each day is something different. So again, we have a graphic that we send them in their welcome aboard email. They'll get a graphic with a little 7-day timeline that'll say, like, here's the expectations for day 1, days 2 and 3, days 3 and 4. They get to day 7, boom, you're full go. Like, get after it. Brand new agents, their process is about a month.
Okay.
Because those ones you got to spend more time. You got to go over a lot more of not just the systems and the processes of how we work, but you got to also go into all the sales training with them.
And you guys have a brick and mortar office, don't you?
Yes.
Okay. So they're coming to the office. Are they coming every day?
Not every day. They just come in. They're really required to come in the days that we have the sales training. So we'll set the calendar with them. So as they're getting on board and they join our team, we'll set the calendar. We'll say these are, these specific days. So you have your checklist. This is the things that you got to accomplish. But when we do these, the sales training, you have to be here. When we do our systems training, you have to be here. And we'll map that out on the calendar for them so they know they have an expectation now. So they could look at it, and it's never going to be, they're just kind of like sitting at home, like, what am I supposed to be doing right now? What should I do next? With us, they have their checklist. They have a roadmap, and they know what the light at the end of the tunnel is.
And then on sales meetings for y'all's office, how often are you doing those?
So we actually have one going on right now.
Really?
So we do our sales. So the way our meeting, and it's where you brought up Traction earlier, one of my favorite books. I've read it multiple times. I got it sitting literally on my shelf right here at all times, just in case I have to revert back to it. So I actually bought my agents the abridged version. There's a What the Heck is EOS? It's,
I've read that one too. That's a good one.
It's like a team member version of Traction. So they don't have to know all the nuts and bolts because they're not the ones building the business, but they have to know what it is. They have to have an understanding. So I actually bought a bunch of copies of those that we have in the office too for our agents. But no, so we stick pretty strict to the Traction model. So for our team meetings, so the team meeting, we do exactly pretty much to the T of what's laid out in Traction, from having or going over our wins. We have Mary has her 5 minutes to where, she could bring up any topics. We go through the IDS, the issues list. So we're big into the IDS, which is the identify, discuss, and solve. So if we have an issues list that our agents could throw suggestions on, if they have questions, they can put it on this list. We go into the team meeting, we address them one by one, and we try to solve them right there in the meeting. If it's something more higher level, like if there's marketing stuff and, then we bring it to like our manager, our leadership meeting, and we address it then. But we try to solve as much as we can in the team meeting. And then we kind of go over our scoreboard, with some of the key metrics from, the number of leads we had prior week, how many were claimed, how many went unclaimed, what the conversion rates were. So we go through that. So
and
that
are you tracking all of that in Follow Up Boss, or are you using a different system?
No, I track all that in Follow Up Boss.
Okay.
Yep. So our team, they have to, with Follow Up Boss, you get phone numbers. So they have to use their Follow Up Boss number as their primary business phone.
Okay.
So that way, all communications are tracked. So, phone calls, texts, everything's tracked. So we use all that for all of our numbers reporting. And then all their appointments get put right in Follow Up Boss. So that way we always say, if it's not in Follow Up Boss, it didn't happen.
Yep.
So if we go through a leaderboard and I say they had 0 appointments and they say, well, I set 2 of them. Did you put it in Follow Up Boss? Oh, no, I forgot. Well, so you didn't have any. So we use Follow Up Boss to be able to track it. So so that's our team meeting. We run Traction to the T. Other times during the week,
How many are you doing a leadership meeting as well outside of the sales meeting?
Yeah, so we'll do. So I run quite a few meetings. So the team meeting we have on Tuesdays. Thursdays I have a transaction meeting. So I do a meeting with our transaction coordinator, and then we have Jen, our executive assistant. So I meet with the 3 of them just to kind of go through kind of the operation side of the business. What's happening on the transaction side? Is there any improvements that need to be made? Kind of get their feedback, because again, they're the ones working in those systems all the time and running the transactions. So we do that. Mary does an ISA meeting. So she is a separate one with the ISA department. And then we run our leadership meetings. That's, at this point, it's mainly me, Mary, and Jen. Who's Jen eventually, she's our executive assistant. She'll be kind of running, like, that transaction department is kind of her baby. So that's her role. But then with the team, we do our team meeting on Tuesday. We have a team training on Thursdays. And then we have our activity check-in on Friday. So our activity check-in it's an accountability thing. So every Monday I send out a report with their prior week's activities, like who made the most phone calls, most text messages sent, most emails, most appointments set, and we send out the leaderboard. And then on Fridays, the check-in. So where are you week to date so far? So from Monday to now, where are you at? So it's a Zoom call. Everyone just calls in. They read off their numbers. They'll say, I made 57 phone calls, 120 texts, 100 emails. I set 3 appointments. Done. Move on to the next person. Next person goes, and we just go right through it. So everyone kind of gets an idea of where they are for the week. So that's kind of the 3 mandatory things that we have throughout the week for the team.
And do most of your agents show up for those?
They have to.
Okay.
Those 3 are required. We have some other trainings and stuff during the week that aren't required. We'd like the full-time agents to be on. We have a couple part-time agents. So, we don't really make them get on some of these other trainings that we have. But those 3 have to have the team meeting, the training, and the activity check-ins are 3 musts.
Okay. And then do your agents have workspace there in the office where they actually come and utilize the office?
So we do. We're actually in the process of moving offices too. So the one we have now is just a little bit more kind of, it's 2 floors, but it's all kind of like small rooms. So like we do have a bullpen area where people come in and work. But it's not as conducive. The one we're moving to is pretty much the same square footage, but it's all 1 floor, and it has a couple private offices, but then there's a huge open space that we're having fit out. So we're going to have it built out with a bunch of different workspaces. So it's going to be awesome. So we're super excited for that.
How important do you think that is for people to come to the office and engage?
I think it's huge. We look at just the people on our team. The ones who are in the office consistently are the ones producing more than everyone else. You feed off each other. At home, it's too easy to get distracted. And you don't have anything to gauge kind of your activity level against. So if you come in here and people see, Mary, she's on the phone all the time, still selling. We have, Sarah in the office, Leslie in the office. They like all these people who are just on the phones, just killing it and hammering it away. It makes the other people want to kind of get involved and do the same thing.
What do you think is one of the biggest challenges for people as they're scaling and growing a team and growing a real estate company?
I think they fail to plan enough in advance. I think, because there's a couple of things you have to have set before you decide to do it. A lot of people, they think it sounds like a great idea to start a team. But they don't realize just the amount of work that goes into it. And it's, that's how Mary, when she started, her team started as a revolving door. She was getting buyer's agents, losing buyer's agents, getting admin, losing admin. Because again, people leave you the way they join you. So, if they join and it's an unorganized mess, they're going to leave and they're out. So it's all about kind of that first impression. So that's where that organization comes in. So if people come to join your team and you are organized, you have processes in place, you have admin in place who are going to, who are there as a value add to the agents, they look at those things and they look compared to other teams. They're like, oh, well, team X, Y, and Z, they didn't have any of that stuff. Like, so I'm going to go join them where I know, like, they sat down and they went through the exact onboarding steps. They went through their team agreement, their policy and procedures handbook. Like they have all this stuff mapped out. Like, this is like a real business over here.
Big difference, isn't it?
Yeah. And that's the key is, make sure you have your systems in place and your people. Definitely don't go start adding buyer's agents before you have a solid admin in place. Because what happens is you bring a buyer on board, the buyer's agent, they expect to have an admin in place. If all of a sudden that admin isn't happy and they leave, guess who becomes the admin? The team lead. I
Not
like I
good.
watched Mary do it. I mean, Mary was like doing contracts for people when she couldn't keep an assistant because the agents didn't know how to do a contract because they never had to because there wasn't admin in place. Now that admin's
Yeah.
not there, that agent needs a contract. Now here's Mary on a Sunday afternoon writing a contract. So we're like,
Yeah.
this is not the right way to do it.
Oh no. And I think too, as you guys keep scaling and keep evolving, and like when you're running a team, there's always these shiny objects. Like there's always some new
Oh,
lead gen platform, there's always new CRM, there's always a new tracker. And I think you can get, because we've done it here in our office, prior to Paul being here, it was like we had so many different tech stacks. It wasn't even funny. Half of them was like, I don't even know what this is and why we bought it, and we've never even used it. You can get carried away and completely lose
Oh,
yourself.
yeah. Oh, especially, and you brought it up earlier again, the book Rocket Fuel, which is another, perfect book.
Yeah.
And especially, when you have the relationship like Mary and I have, where she's a visionary on the integrator, but you need that person that could kind of get the visionary to pump their brakes a little bit. Because
Yes.
the visionary, I know you're the same way, and,
Yeah.
and Mary is like, Mary will literally have 19 things running through her head at
Oh,
all
yeah.
times.
Yep.
And there has to be someone that can kind of be like, hey, look, we can't do all this. Like, so that's like my job now is to figure out how to get most of it done and prioritize it and say, look, these are the most important. Out of all those ideas you just came up with, these are the ones we could tackle now. And again, like you said, with all the these shiny objects, like visionaries will literally go and just start signing up for everything. If they're not organized and they don't know, they will literally sign up for all of it. And that's one of the first things I did when I joined Mary was go through a lot of the finances. And I'm looking, then there's these recurring expenses. I'm like, what's this for? She's like, I don't know.
Yep.
I'm like, what's this one for? She's like, I don't know. I'm like, all right, well, and that's one of your profitability issues right there. Like, we got to cut all these out.
Yes, that's a problem.
But no, that integrator role is a must. I mean, especially, if you are building a team and you're a visionary, you need to find someone, they could start as your admin initially, but you need someone that you could kind of bounce these ideas off of and take feedback from. That's one of the hardest things with Mary and I is because we're married too.
Yeah.
So the visionary and integrator can kind of butt heads at times because
yeah.
The visionary wants to do everything. The integrator is going to do what's most important now. And if you like, so they could butt heads. So when you're married, it makes it a little worse because now it's like, Mary, I don't think we should be doing this right now. And she'll say, screw you, I want a divorce. So it makes it's really good at times because we know each other so well, but at the same time, it has its tough points. But.
Of course. People ask all the time, like, how do you know when it's time for you to hire someone in operations? How do you know when you're at that level? What would your response be to somebody that asked that question?
As soon as you feel like you're in a position that you don't want to do it anymore. So for me, my whole thing, and this is how Mary is, and this is kind of like we want to make sure everyone is in the right seat.
Yeah.
That's really important.
Oh, yeah.
Mary knew early in her career that she is not a paperwork person. She wants no part of writing contracts. She doesn't want to be sending stuff out for signatures. Like that's not what she wanted to do. So we knew right away. We're like, all right, well, how do we solve that? Well, you bring in an admin. So that's why I think the admin has to be one of your first key hires because that's going to be the first person to take the most off of the visionary, the team leader.
Big time.
So the second Mary was able to get the administrative stuff off her plate, that freed up probably 70% of her time.
Yep.
To where now she could either focus on more lead generation, she could focus on now growing agents.
Yes.
So really, that first hire has to come to when you're finally able to break away from the stuff that you don't want to do.
Yeah. What would you say if somebody was to go looking for an integrator or an operations person? What do you think are some of the, say, top 3 things they need to look for in that person?
Well, organization is key.
Oh,
They have to be organized. If not, because that's 90% of this job is organization. Like you are organizing the business. So that's key. One, you don't really necessarily want someone, I know a lot of people are big into kind of all those, the DISC assessments and all that kind of stuff. If you're hiring and you are going to run some of those tests and you're going to have them go through a DISC, stay away from a DI because DIs tend to be your visionaries. So the last thing you want to do is hire an assistant or an integrator who is another kind of high D personality, because that high D is going to want to do their own stuff.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that they are someone who is a lot more kind of reserved and analytical. And that's what I am. Like, when you meet me, like when we're in social settings, like, I'll drink and I'll have a good time. But for the most part, when you see me, like I'm in rooms, like I'm processing all the time. Mary's out there. She's owning the room. She's talking to everyone. But at the end of the day, she'll be like, wait, who was that person? I don't remember that. But meanwhile, I'm the guy saying like, all right, that's Jen over there. This is Chris. Like, and like I'm processing stuff in my mind, and then we kind of get involved. Like, so you want someone who's more, kind of more, thought
detail
oriented. So definitely organization, detail, and you definitely don't want a high D personality.
No. How important do you think it is for somebody to know finances like you do?
So, I mean, in this role, I think it's extremely important, but it is one of those things you could also leverage if it's not. Because I'll be honest. So finance, again, I have a master's in finance and accounting, so I know numbers inside and out. It's still not my strong. It's not where I necessarily want to be. I want to be more in the seat of I am organizing and developing the business.
Yeah.
So I don't want to spend too much of my time dissecting finances. So for me, honestly, one of my best hires, because I know now what my strengths are. And again, finance is a strength, but it's not something I love to do.
Yep.
So I went and I recently hired a VA to do it. And it was the most amazing hire that I've ever had.
Wow.
Because she literally took all of it. So now the end of every day, I get an end of day report that's going to show, everything up to that date, what the expenses, if any new commission checks, if we had closings, like, so I get an end of day report beginning of the day. She's going to say, here's our expected expenses coming up. So now she sends all, so I just showed her how I do all those reports and she does it. So now I come in the morning, I have everything waiting for me. So now all I have to do is just read the reports. I don't actually have to create them. So I don't analyze them. She's in my QuickBooks. She's in all the systems we use. I use CTE to track a lot of my business.
Okay.
So she goes into CTE. She'll pull all the numbers. She'll update everything in there from all of our expenses, our income. So that tracks all my profitability. So I come in the morning, I just look at it. It's up to date. It's literally up to that morning, and I can see exactly where we are.
That's pretty handy. You guys.
So if you're not, so you don't necessarily have to be finance oriented. You should.
Yeah.
You can leverage that part of the job. And
if y'all don't know what a VA is, it's a virtual assistant. And we, again, because we collaborate and we all run kind of in the same circle. So we all have the same kind of things going on. And it's an amazing thing. We wouldn't have that if we weren't all part of EXP. Isn't that crazy?
No, that's the most amazing thing. The collaboration, the stuff that, and I'll tell you right now, so I have 4 VAs right now. So we have one who does some kind of ISA work, but more client care manager. They'll call our really old clients that never responded. So they'll go through a lot of those leads. Then we have the in-house ISA. But then we have the virtual ISA. We have a virtual transaction coordinator. So she works hand in hand with Jen. And then we have a marketing person who's absolutely amazing. She is spectacular. And then we have the one that I just hired, who's kind of my executive assistant, which has proved that to be one of my best hires since we've had this team.
I love that.
It's game changing.
So then looking forward, what would you say are your next things that you're working on for 2022 for growth?
So this point, it's a lot more just fine tuning. So now what I do, especially because I'm still an integrator, but I still am able to kind of, because I've built a business and sold it before, I kind of can visualize a little bit too, where most of it comes from Mary. But now a lot of my days now, what my days look like is how can I make this the most streamlined as possible for my team?
I love that.
So right now we have a lot of the stuff in place. For example, onboarding. We have a great onboarding system, but I know it can still be streamlined. Especially we continue to add, we want to have 50 agents by the end of the year.
Right.
So if we're looking to get to 50 agents, we're at 17 now. That's a lot more agents. That's still 33 more agents we got to onboard. So That's one that instead of trying to build that, it's already built. Now it's, how can I make it better? How can I improve it? That's the same thing with our sales process now. So I kind of look at the business from kind of overhead and see which areas can be fine tuned. And that's where I focus my energy. Mary and I, we also operate from the traction model where we go through each quarter and do our VTO, our vision traction organizer. So we'll do our quarterly business plan and we'll pick what are our core rocks for that quarter. And then as Mary comes up with her 9,000 ideas, I'll look back to the VTO and say, this is not one of our rocks, let's table that. And then, so I'll kind of focus, these are our rocks. How can I make these things happen?
Yeah.
And right now, a lot of it is revolved around just fine tuning and just streamlining.
Oh, yeah. I love it though. With what you guys have going on, if you guys are paying attention to this and you're a solo agent, and you're trying to build a team, you need to watch this again and again and reach out to Brian because, he's, without him, Mary wouldn't be able to grow their team like they have. And same here in our office, like Paul is ours. And so it's like, I couldn't do the things that I do without him. It's just not possible. It's too much. And our brains aren't wired that way. But when you have them together, it's like harmony. It's crazy.
And that's what, I love sharing because you always hear the story like Walt Disney. So he was a visionary. Yeah. His brother was the integrator and he gives his brother all the credit in the world. No one knows his brother's name.
No.
And that's how I am in our business. I'm like, and that's fine because that's another thing at the integrator. They're okay. Like they are good in the back, knowing that they're building it. The team, their immediate people around them know what they're responsible for. So people outside, they're not going to know what I do and how I'm helping the business, but it's all right.
It is.
Then,
I love
it. You do because now, in our business, especially within EXP, when we collaborate, we see all these other people. That's all I got connected with you. And then that's when, you start sharing that story and, letting other agents understand like, hey, if you really want to build, you need someone in that operation seat, that integrator seat.
You do. You got to do it together. You guys, for one, you need to read the book Traction. You need to read the book EOS. You need to read Rocket Fuel. These things will help change your life. It'll help put right things in the right order. And then, of course, you can always reach out to us because we collaborate. That's what we believe in. We believe we're better together always.
We are.
Hey, Brian, how can they find you guys if they want to look up you and your team and learn a little bit more about you guys?
So you could find, social media. You'll find Brian Murphy and Mary Murphy. Website, murphygrouphomes.com. It's kind of about it. If anyone needs to reach out, it's Brian at murphygrouphomes.com. I'm available. Like Trisha, I'm an open book. Mary and I are transparent as it comes. So I'm happy to talk to any agent anytime.
I love it. You guys, if you're out there and you're in the real estate world, you need help, you need questions, you need anything answered, make sure and reach out to us because we do believe that we're better together. Thank you for being here today, Brian.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot for having me, Trisha. It was awesome.
Yeah, you guys have a great day.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.